Hi, this is Eduardo Alvarez once again. You know, there's very little that most people know about Adam, except that he sinned, and we are paying the consequences of his sin. The Bible basically says in Genesis chapter 1, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and the birds of the air, over the livestock, over all the earth, over all the creatures that move along the ground." And then in chapter 2 it says, "The Lord God formed the man from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being." There's very little else that is said about Adam in the Bible. But there's much, much more to talk about Adam. And I want to make reference to this revelation called the Book of Life, the Book of Heaven, which is the call of the creature to the order, the place, and the purpose for which he was created by God. And that's important. Why did God decide to create man? This is a revelation of Jesus to Luisa Picarreta. And I read from volume 25. "Little daughter of the divine will, you must know that these are absolute rights of my divine fiat, to have primacy over each act of the creature. And one who denies its primacy takes its divine right away from it, which are due to it by justice, because it is the creator of the human will. Who can tell you, my daughter, how much evil a creature can do when she reaches the point of withdrawing from the will of her creator?" And that's what Adam did. He withdrew from the will of the creator and had created him under his divine will. See, one act of the first man, Adam, withdrawing from our divine will was enough, reaching the point of changing the destiny of the human generations. And we know that for a fact. We are living right now the consequences of what Adam did. Not only this, but the very destiny of our divine will. If Adam had not sinned, the eternal Word, let me get this out, the eternal Word, who is the very will of the Celestial Father, was to come upon earth glorious, triumphant, and dominator, accompanied visibly by his angelic army, which all were to see. And with the splendor of his glory, he was to charm everyone and draw everyone to himself with his beauty. He's talking what would have happened if Adam did not sin. How did Jesus would have come down to earth? And he's explaining how. Crowned as king, and with the scepter of command, so as to be king and head of the human family, in such a way as to give creatures the great honor of being able to say, "We have a king who is man and God." I don't need this. More so, since your Jesus was not coming from heaven to find man infirm, because had he not withdrawn from my divine will, no illnesses, either soul or of body, were to exist. Man was created to live forever, eternally, with no sickness whatsoever of body and mind. Let's see. Were to exist. In fact, it was the human will that almost drowned the poor creature with pains. The divine fiat was untouchable by any pain, and so was man to be. You see, when Jesus comes down to earth, both as man and God, he suffered all his pain as human, not as God, because his divinity could not be subject to pain. Therefore, I was to come to find man happy, holy, with the fullness of the goods with which I had created him. That's the way Adam should have lived. But because he wanted to do his will, he changed our destiny And since it was decreed that I was to descend upon earth, and when the divinity decrees, no one can move it, I only changed the manner and the appearance. But I did descend, though under a most humble guises, poor, with no apparatus of glory, suffering and crying, and loaded with all the miseries and pains of man. That's how we know Jesus when he descended. That's the way he was. The human will made me come to find man unhappy, blind, deaf, and mute, full of all miseries, and I, in order to heal him, was to take them upon myself. So as not to strive fear in them, I was to show myself as one of them, become their brothers, and give them the medicine and the remedies which were needed. So the human will has the power to render man happy or unhappy, a saint or a sinner, healthy or sick. See then, if the soul decides always to do my divine will and to live in it, she will change her destiny, and my divine will fling upon the creature. It will make her its prey, and given her the kiss of creation, it will change appearance and manner. This is talking about the purpose of the creation of man. But the thing is that even though Adam failed, it doesn't mean that God has forgotten about his purpose in creating man. He hasn't. And he's going to redo it. Clasping her to its bosom, it will say to her, let us put everything aside. The first times of creation have come back for you and for me. Everything will be happiness between you and me. You will live in our house as our daughter or son, in the abundance of the goods of your Creator. This is coming. Learn, my little newborn of the divine will. She's talking back to Luisa. If man had not sinned, if he had not withdrawn from my divine will, I would have come upon earth. But do you know how? Full of majesty, as when I rose again from death. Even though I had my humanity similar to that of man, united to the eternal Word, how different was my resurrected humanity. Glorified, clothed with light, not subject to either suffering or dying. I was the true divine trumper. On the other hand, because before dying, though voluntarily my humanity was subjected to all pains, even more, I was the man of sorrows. And since man had his eyes still dazzled by the human will, and therefore he was still infirm, few were the ones who saw me resurrected. And this served to confirm my resurrection. Then I ascended into heaven to give man the time to take the remedies and the medicines, so that he might recover and dispose himself to know my divine will, in order to live not of his will, but of mine. And so I will be able to show myself full of majesty and of glory in the midst of the children of my kingdom. Here he's using the word kingdom, and he's talking about the kingdom of the divine will, which is to come. Therefore, the resurrection is the confirmation of the fiat voluntas tua on earth as it is in heaven. This is when we pray the Our Father, and we say that your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. After such a long sorrow suffered by my divine will for so many centuries of not having the kingdom upon the earth and its absolute dominion, it was right that my humanity place its divine right in safety and realize its original purpose and mine of forming its kingdom in the midst of creature. This is what's happening right now for all those that are willing to listen. First, those that are willing to realize that this is a work of God that He's starting to do. He wants to reveal all the books that He wrote through Luisa, 36 volumes, plus 2 other books, showing man the plans of God for mankind. The purpose of mind of forming His kingdom in the midst of creature. Moreover, in order to further confirm for you how the human will changed its destiny, and that of the divine will regard to it, you must know that in the whole history of the world, 2 persons only have lived of divine will, without ever doing their own. And these were the sovereign queen and myself, Jesus. In the distance, the difference between us and the other creatures is infinite. So much so that not even our bodies were left on earth. They had served as royal palaces for the Divine Fiat, and the Divine Fiat felt inseparable from our bodies, and therefore it claimed them, both Jesus and Queen Mary. And with its ruling strength, it kidnapped our bodies together with our souls into the celestial fatherland. The ascension of Jesus, the assumption of Mary. And why all this? The whole reason is that our human wills never had one single act of life, but all the dominion in the field of action was of my divine will. Its power is infinite. Its love is insuperable. My daughter, by not doing my divine will, the creature casts confusion in the order which my divine majesty kept in the creation. You see, everything that was done in creation was done under an order. An order is something typical of God. God does everything in order. And He wants to reestablish that order once again. She loses the origin, the means, and the end of that divine life, which with so much love was infused in her in the act of being created. We loved this man so much that we placed in him our divine will as origin of life. We wanted to feel enraptured by him. We wanted to feel in him our strength, our power, our happiness, and our same continuous echo. And who could ever allow us to feel and see all of this, if not our divine will bilocated in him? We wanted to see in man the bearer of his creator, who was to make him happy in time and eternity. Therefore, when he did not do our divine will, we felt vividly the great sorrow of our work disordered. Imagine this. God has this purpose in creation. He creates the entire universe. He creates all the planets. He creates light. He creates the sun. He creates all things in the sky. He creates earth with all that's in earth. And he is with great sorrow because his work is disordered. Our echo ended. Our enrapturing strength, which was to enrapture us, to give him new surprises and happiness, converted into weakness. In some, it turned upside down. This is why we cannot tolerate such a disorder in our work. If he were to tolerate that disorder, means he failed. His creation was a failure. God cannot fail. This is why we cannot tolerate such a disorder in our work. And if I have spoken so much about my divine fiat, the purpose is precisely this. We want to place man in the order that he may return to the first step of his creation. Actually, I've done this at the beginning. Turn this phone off. We want to place man in the order that he may return to the first steps of his creation, in our will, flowing within him as vital humor may form once again our bearer, our royal palace upon earth, his happiness and ours. This is why The gift of living in the divine will is going to give order to creation and to redemption. It is a gift. It is freely given to anybody and everybody that is willing to accept it and live according to his rules. And the rule is, live according to my will. God bless you.